You're listening to the No Labels, No Limits podcast with best-selling author Sarah Box, where you get the inside scoop on the steps action takers and decision makers take to align their purpose to their principles and achieve their goals in business and life. We focus on the mantra, no labels, no limits, no excuses. Each week, you'll hear from remarkable guests who have overcome challenges and obstacles to succeed in the face of adversity. By listening to their stories, you'll get practical tips, tools, and resources you can implement today to bust through your own internalized prisons of worry and doubt. And now, without further ado, please welcome your commanding coach with plenty of chutzpah and heart, Sarah Box.
Hey there, No Labels, No Limits podcast guest. This is Sarah, your host, and I'm glad that you've joined us again this week for another episode all about shedding limiting labels and beliefs so that we can all shine our light in the world and basically live our best versions of our life. I do want to give you a little heads up that if you are someone who feels that you have that, that undeniable pull to do something, you have a goal, maybe you want to leave a legacy or you just something that feels big and you don't know even where to start on that journey. If you want to join in with other brilliant women and have a place to grow and do that work, go to my website and just find the Brilliant Women's Circle information button and join us. We'll keep you posted. We'll be talking more about that as it gets closer to the middle of November. But just a heads up, because sometimes it's easier to go with others who are in your corner and champion you. So today we have a great interview. Our guest is Sherry Fernandez. And before I bring Sherry on, let me tell you a little bit about her bio. She has been for 2 decades a speaker, teacher, mentor, and now she's a best-selling author of the USA Today and Wall Street Journal bestseller, Life Mastery, Personal Progression Toward an Infinite Potential. And I love that title, Personal Progression Toward an Infinite Potential. And in that story, she tells about her own journey, and I'm going to ask her to say more about that. It's a pretty remarkable story, and she talks about the principles and the tools that she uses, has used, and continues to use for success. And her book, really talks about the keys we need to know for embarking on our own quest. So we're going to dive into that. And she will leave us with some concrete tips and tools. And I know we'll benefit from her because she has taught these principles to hundreds of people who have also found success and the happiness that follows. And she has this great life mastery program. So we're going to learn more about that. She speaks to my heart when, just her path and her principles. So let's just welcome Sherry right now. Hi, Sherry. How are you?
Hi, Sarah. I'm good. How are you?
I'm really well. I'm been looking forward to talking to you. When I read a little bit about your background and kind of the tools and, what you talk about, about habits and success and making dreams come true, but really having an impact for your own life that matters. I just got more and more excited. But as I like to start with all my guests, I do want to ask if there's something that you do every day that keeps you motivated and focused on your own road to success.
Well, there is. In fact, it's the basis of how I found a lot of the basis of how I found success in life. I started keeping a tracking sheet of my daily habits in my 20s, and I still do that to this day. I added a whole bunch of daily habits. So the habit of tracking my habits would be the one thing that I do consistently and always. And there's some of those habits, daily habits that I've had for 40 years that I developed way back in my 20s. And I still do, but the bottom line is that tracking sheet. It's just a simple calendar. It's on my website in my book, but it's just a simple calendar where you just write down your things you want to accomplish every day at the beginning of the month, and you put the days of the week across the top, and you just check them off as you do them every day. And yeah, I live and breathe by that tracking sheet. My clients, people that I coach, that's we all live and breathe by those. And some of our staff gets together and everybody's got to show their tracking sheet and to keep each other on track. What'd you get done? What'd you miss? So yeah, tracking sheets is the bomb. Can't hear you.
It's powerful when you can see that you're making progress or you're not, and then you can ask yourself good questions. You know, how did that fall off? And how do you decide what goes on your sheet?
The things that I want, the things I want to accomplish is a system. And that's one thing that's different about Life Mastery is besides the motivation and I think more specific information about what kind of areas we need to set goals in, it's the systems. And if you have a good system, you almost don't even need to set the goals. Like if I want to be lean, fit, have a rockin' hot body and sexy and all those things, well, I know that if I do certain things, that will just happen, right? So every day on my tracking sheet, I have workout or train on my, I say train because it gets people off that exercise thing that's get to be kind of negative, but every day my body needs a workout. So it's on my tracking sheet. I'm a prayer, but I don't put that on my tracking sheet yet. But I did at the beginning. Reading every day, drinking so much water every day. I have some weekly goals. Call my mom. That's all she gets is once a week. I call my mom once a week, whether I want to or not. So anyway, those kind of things. I have about 10 things that I track that I just do every day. And I've added those. When I started, I did start with 10. I started with 3 and 40 years later.
Talk a little bit about the power of starting small. And do you have clients who want to start like, okay, this is everything I want to do? Talk to us about the balance.
That's one of the things when I'm coaching with somebody is we got to find out what's most essential to getting them to feel some control in their life, some mastery in their life, so they can feel like they can do the other things. But yeah, right off, depends on what they're already doing. I like it if they've already got a habit that we can go ahead and put on there that they're already good at, so they've got success row, right? But yeah, we need to start with maybe 2, 3 new things at most. In fact, I'll usually start with two things. If you only have one, it doesn't feel quite enough to track. So at least 2, and we'll do it the first few weeks. And depending on how they do, then we might add some more. And sometimes they may stay with 2 or 3 for a long time if they're struggling getting them down. But yeah, start small. What I like to say is this, and I think I put this in the book, I'm sure I did, but if it looks a little challenging, almost overwhelming, that's good. A little scary, but if it feels completely overwhelming, then it's too much. If it feels too easy, it's not hard enough. If you think, oh, I could do that, no problem. Then, but I usually give them a week or 2 to see if and they might say, oh, that looks pretty easy, no problem. But when the rubber meets the road,
it's the difference between that looks good in concept, and then you're thinking, really, I'm really gonna be able to start out drinking that much water? I've done that myself. It's like, I'm gonna do this. I'm thinking, I can't consume that much right off the bat. I have to lower it a little bit, and then I can overachieve it. Yeah. But you're right. There's that tendency to go all after it and then go, that doesn't work.
That's not working. Yeah, and that's the other. So it's not even not just the number of items that are on that list, but the intensity of them. But they should also challenge us. I mean, we can do hard things, right? So
we can.
I don't mollycoddle people very much. I have expectations, and they're always I'm usually the first one to be surprised at what they can actually accomplish. And I think as a good mentor, we call it mentoring more because there's such a glut of people coaching everybody, but a good mentor can understand that person well enough to know when they are pushing themselves and when they're maybe pushing themselves too hard. Yeah. But I ask a lot of my clients, and they're often the first to be surprised at what they can accomplish.
That's sometimes the beauty of having a mentor or a coach, because they can often see our capabilities better than we can.
Yes. And see, like I had this one time, see what we really want to. Is we think we want a certain thing. Maybe we did want a certain thing for a long time. Now we're just in the habit of wanting that thing. And a coach can help you stop and say, is that still really what you want? I had a client for a while who'd been a pianist as she was growing up in her early 20s, had gotten away from it. And she wanted to start practicing the piano every day. But every week we'd meet together, no piano practice. And so I just said to her one day, do you really want to practice the piano? And she said, I don't think I do. But she had to go through that process to know. It was fine. She doesn't have to practice the piano. There's plenty of other things she can do. But she had wanted to for a long time and just had grown away from it.
Yeah.
She
Well, and
probably,
you actually gave her the permission to make it okay to say, I tried it. No,
yeah.
that's not who I am today.
I like that story about sometimes we have to go down a wrong road before we realize it's the wrong road. And if we don't go down the wrong road a little bit, we'll not know it's the wrong road. Like then we can go back, go down the right road. Like we sometimes need to go down the wrong road first before
Always.
we're sure that the right road is the right road.
Yeah, because if you're only on the right road, this is my thinking. If I'm always on the road that's so easy, I'm thinking, what am I missing? Like, what am I not challenging myself with?
Yeah, well, it's like if you're going down the right road, but you're not totally positive, you might say, maybe this is the wrong road, maybe it's the wrong road. But if I've done the wrong road first, and we don't go crazy with this, right? This is going to get too far down the wrong road. But if I've gone down the wrong road first, and I can say, yeah, that was the wrong road. Now when I go down the right road, I'm confident that it is the right road. And
Well,
that's
let's talk about wrong roads. Talk to me about your own journey. You know, I didn't say this in the introduction, but you've had quite the path. Let's just say that from leaving home at 17. So let's talk about some of your roads chosen, some of them less traveled, some challenging, and to the point of living nearly destitute with your husband. How did you go from that to having a successful fitness business and now to being a super successful coach and best-selling author? Talk to us about that.
You know, I have a reputation for being wise. And I always think that's because I made so many mistakes. Of course, you can make mistakes and not learn from them. And you can grow old. Also, I'm old. And so, you know, you can grow older and be wise. And you can grow older and not be wise. But I did learn from my mistakes. Yes, you know, I had a little bit of a volatile childhood, but it was fine. You know, I don't think it destroyed me in any way. There were some bad things that happened and a lot of divorcing and marriage and moving and tons of stuff like that. But that I seem to just glide all through that, kind of oblivious almost to that for the most part. And then when my teenager years were a little more stable. But I graduated, I was too immature to graduate at 17, but I did. I graduated at 17 and then I was kind of on my own. And I was just had a lot of passion and desire to touch and feel and see and do everything. And that idea took me down some pretty wrong roads. So it was sort of a sex, drugs, and rock and roll era. And I got pretty much involved in that. There was hippie kind of lifestyle is a weird thing. It's sort of like, you know, you do certain things and it puts you up you think there's no prestige in the hippie culture, but there is. You know, the more you do these certain kinds of things, like live without electricity or don't wear underwear or whatever, you move up the hippie, you know, the more on the road you are, the more you hitchhike, whatever it is. So I was doing all of those kind of things and mostly my drug of choice was alcohol. So I did get into a bit of a drinking problem. It was just starting to get me when I met my husband and we decided to get married, but I'd already had a child too at that point. So we got married and almost immediately I became pregnant. About 6 months later, I became pregnant again. So now we got these 2 little girls, but he came from the same culture as me. We did an about face. As soon as we got married, we knew really clearly that we weren't going to make it if we continued in this world. So we immediately settled down, made some changes in our lifestyle. We started, my long extended family had belonged to a certain church. My husband joined it. We kind of got active that way, started doing some things like that, but we are just poor. Ken was working 2 jobs almost all the time, but we have no skills, right? And I've got these 2 little girls, so I'm doing some daycare and we're still just not putting food on the table. It's like, I think at that time we were living on $500 a month and half went to our house payment. So we're living on $250 a month and feeding this family. And I remember my mom would give me a quarter to ride the bus. I'd ride the bus downtown. She'd buy me lunch and she'd give me another quarter to ride the bus home just to get me out of the house sometimes. So it was pretty tight, but I wanted a lot of things. As a little girl, I thought I had big dreams. I thought, I know they were going to be exactly, but I was going to live a glamorous lifestyle. I went to a lot of movies by myself, little, yeah, 8 and 9 years old. I just thought that my life was going to be glamorous like these movies were. And so I don't know what it was. I just thought it was going to be something great and glamorous. So when I found myself in this married situation, I still wanted all that. I wanted everything, Sarah, I guess is what I can say. I was going to be married, which I'd not previously wanted to do growing up or have children, actually. I have 6. I wanted to be able to have children and have a really nice body at the same time. I thought, I think it's possible. I can have it all. And I wanted to not have a ceiling on my finances. I hated the idea of having to budget my rest of my entire life in order to do anything, right? I wanted the freedom, that money. I didn't want a ceiling. If I want more money, I can get it. Right. And be able to do what I want to do.
I totally relate.
And that my marriage, if I was going to be married, by darn, I was going to have the best marriage going, which I think I do. I think maybe. Anyway, I wanted a rock and sexy, warm, close, romantic relationship. And Ken and I've always been really close, so that was pretty easy. But I just wanted everything. I'd missed my education, but I've been a debater in high school, and I have a pretty good IQ, and I felt like I'd missed learning, and I wanted to learn and learn a lot of things. So I just went to work. I thought, if somebody can do it, I can do it. And I went to learn, figuring out how people are successful. So I started reading the books. I started with Zig Ziglar, See You at the Top. And I just started reading all of the books I could find on motivation. We were, again, was really pretty broke, but we still dig up money to find audio programs and even go to some seminars. I don't even know how we did it. When I look back, I think, how in the world did we afford to do that thing? But we found ways to go and did experiential workshops, which were terrific, all on a very low budget in those days. But I gathered up the information. What I couldn't find were systems, though, like the tracking sheet. Those I kind of made up myself, or found a principle somewhere and then adopted it and refined it to make the systems that I share. But anyway, so I applied those systems, those practices consistently, my husband too, and I got all of the things that I wanted, and they were all, I think this is a good principle right here. When you dream, you can't even dream big enough. Life has more to offer you than you can even dream. All of those things I have more of than I even dreamed I would have. And I had that big family. I've got those 6 kids and 21 grandchildren, and I have a great figure, and I have no ceiling on my incomes. I live in a beautiful condo in downtown Boise, and I have everything, and this great relationship. I have everything. I'm not saying I'm still growing in those areas, but everything that I dreamed of, his life is just awesome.
So let me back you up to something you said, that you can't even dream big enough for what's possible. That, and I may have paraphrased you a bit.
No, that's good. That's accurate.
Is that pretty close? Okay.
Pretty close, no.
So did you believe that before you got there and then you walked in faith, or did you have these big dreams and think, oh my God, I could have been dreaming bigger?
I dreamed pretty big. I think this is a true principle. If you have a big dream, which I had pretty big dreams, I think they were pretty big at the time. Even at the time, I mean, there was a lot to hope for one person who has no money and nobody would have given us 2 cents for our future. I mean, when we got married, nobody would have bet on us at all. I thought my dreams were pretty big. I think they were pretty big. I just think it's a true principle that if you do the right things in the right way, you get more than you think you can get. And so that would be, I guess, the way I would put that. I don't know if I'd have dreamed bigger. I don't think my life could be, I think I've got just what I needed.
Yeah.
For that. But I remember
beautiful.
There was and we lived this just old, this house was never nice, even when it was brand new. And we lived in this house and it was just old. And it was just old and bad, and it was never good. And it was just bad. But around this corner, there was this neighborhood with these nice ranch-style homes with basements. They were a nicer version of that 3-bedroom, maybe 4-bedroom kind of house that was built in the 50s, 60s, 70s. They were nicer versions of that, but still 1-level basement, nice homes. I just thought, if I could live in one of those, I would just think that would be the best. Like, that would be so awesome. Well, one day, some years later, I'm driving through that neighborhood, and I'm living in this 3-story house in a brand new neighborhood, a beautiful view. And it was still pretty much a family home. It wasn't like, a mansion, but it was way nicer than those homes. And I think that's kind of a type or maybe a metaphor for how it all went. It's kind of like that.
It's amazing. It's pretty amazing. So talk to me a little bit more more specifically about what is your life mastery? What are the elements?
Well, life mastery, the idea is Well, you know that feeling of being out of control never feels good, right? Like my life is out of control.
Are you asking me, do I
money-
know that feeling?
Yeah, everybody knows
I
that
have
feeling.
known that feeling. Sometimes I know it more intimately than other times. Right now, I don't have it, but I know it.
No, and I think we all have that, at least moments, if not large periods of our time where we feel like that. Why can't I get a handle on my weight? Why can't I get a handle on my finances? My life, why can't I get a handle on my day? My life is out of control. We have those feelings. And even if we get really good at one area of life, our business, if we let the other areas slip, we still feel out of control, right?
Absolutely.
So if I'm rocking it in my business, I'm still not making my workouts, I still feel out of control. My relationships at home are suffering and my workouts are great, but my business is suffering, right? So in Life Mastery, there's 8 areas, and I didn't start with 8 areas, but with time, I realized that there were segments that didn't get talked about very often, like character. So in Life Mastery, there's 8 areas, and to feel that feeling of I've got mastery over my life, not that I'm a control freak, but I've got mastery over me and my life. You have to have it in all 8 areas, or you don't have it at all. And not that you're going to always be balanced, but you've got to be working on all 8 areas. So those 8 areas are, so I say them off the top of my head, our physical self, of course, our spiritual self, our relationships, money, our vocation, our education, our motivation, our lifestyle. We don't want to wait until we're old and retired to enjoy life, right? So that's something we want to design along the way, but also design something for that later in life. So we want to make sure that we're balancing with a happy lifestyle. There's got to be joy in the journey, right? And then character. Character I added just about the time I started the book. I always felt like I would work with people or on myself. I thought, where do you put the part where I want to be more careful that everything I say is true? Or where do I put the part where I want to be a person who stands up for what I believe in a little better? Or where do I put the part about being honest in my finances? Maybe I could do better. Where does that go? And I thought, well, if we lack character, we lack too much. And it's too easy to sell out our character for money, for example, or even in a relationship, right? So I added the character thing, and I feel very good about that. I felt like that felt complete then.
You know, it's interesting you add that, because I think when I look at some of the work, that is the piece, it's so foundational, because our character and how we show up. So how I show up to my physical health is probably how I show up to other things as well. If my character is not honest to myself, or I break promises to myself or whatever, it does have an impact that kind of ripples throughout, but it's so pivotal in who we are.
And truly, yeah, and who we are, and what we need to, while working on our finances, we ought to be working on who we are too. And it's so easy. I think one reason it's important too is we get driven and want a certain thing. It's if we want it too bad and we're not thinking about our character, we can lose a little bit of ourself, right?
Absolutely.
And so you compromise. But if you're also regularly thinking about, I've got my character over here, I'm working on that too. So we're less likely to compromise in the other areas and be honest with ourselves when we're working on our character. So I really felt inspired, and that is something unique too about Life Mastery. I don't think I've ever heard any of the great motivators talk about one area of life as being our character, but like you're saying, it's foundational, right? It's like how we show up and who we are in everything else.
Well, I've been thinking about it more and more, just because there are a lot of inspirational people and a lot of people who have influence. But when I step back and think about it, I'm going, but I see inconsistencies in how you show up in the world, which for me it's fine for them, but it's more a sense for me of, would I follow that person? Would I trust that person? And that's a character thing. And I look at myself in that way too. And it's an inside job, right? You have to know your own values, but also if you know your values and what you stand for, it can make things more clear. Like, so when if you were to say, hey, Sarah, I got this great idea for you, and I'm thinking that doesn't fit. I know who I am. Doesn't fit for who I am at core, right? But you don't know that if you don't know yourself and you're not building your character, because then, like you're saying, it'd be too easy to chase something and lose a bit of yourself in the process.
Yeah, and that could be not even just true, just a character, but any of those things to know somebody has a great idea for you. You have to know, does that fit into my life plan?
Yes.
I've got these goals. I've got a mission statement. I've got these things I'm working on. Does that idea, this happened to me recently. Someone offered me this business opportunity and they were like, you just have to do this. All you have to do is, they felt like they owed me a favor. And they said, this is how I want to pay you back. I want you to just, I'll do all the work. I'll sell all this product. It'll all go under your name. You know where I'm going with this, right? You don't have to do anything. And I thought that's a good opportunity, ground level on a marketing plan like this. I know how these work. If he's serious and will really do that, I'll make some money on that. But you know why I didn't do it? Because it's not consistent, even though it doesn't even require my time. Even that distraction isn't consistent with where I'm going and what I think is right and what I want to do. So knowing that, knowing where you want to go and what your plan is, keeps you from getting sidetracked on all these little, people who are like that, they've got this going on. And this, most of my clients are like this, are big dreamers and they're entrepreneurs. They've got a gazillion projects going on. And the first thing we have to do is start trimming those back, finding out where they want to really go and then trimming back everything that doesn't get them where they're going to go.
And I am guilty of that because I can have a new idea every day. And sadly, I do. Or not sadly, but I don't chase them. Pardon?
I said you can let them go though when you know which ones.
I have to. Yeah. And what's helped keep me good at that is I ask myself, okay, how does this fit? And honestly, if it was if something came up and I'm thinking, oh my God, it isn't the wrong road. I really need to pull on this string a little more. I would do it, but I would do it with someone. I would check in with someone to say, just test me on this, right? Because I know myself. Yeah. But, and I also have an obligation, this goes back to character and integrity, is I work with other people who look to me to be a little stable, right? Because it impacts their life. So, I mean, I take some consideration in, I take pride in that I can be counted on. But I want to know, you had said something interesting about your book. When I was reading about that, that there were specific questions to ask, and you talked about those questions to help us get focused on what we're doing. Can you talk about the power and potential from just asking why?
Yeah, the whole first section is based on why. And that starts right at the very top, like why grow? Why move forward? And that the premise there is, it's not a premise, it's a true principle, and I believe it's an eternal principle, that we are happy when we move forward. So that would be a big why, right? I'm happy if I'm progressing, and if we can keep that in mind, that keeps us moving forward. I talk about big dreams, that's in that section. I find that of my clients, it's not like it's the most important segment of life mastery, but I like them to have come with a big dreams list of at least 50. They never do, but I have them shoot for that, and then we eventually get the 50. But big things, and not limit by, do you have the money? Will my husband support me? Will my children go? I mean, anything about anything, just these big dreams that you have. And I think that gives us a why, something to work on. And we can say, like I had a client recently, he's like, I'm having a little too young, mid-20s. And then he said, I'm having trouble with social media. I said, I'm spending too much time like looking at videos on, social media and stuff. And I said to him, I called him by name, and I said, you have these big dreams. Does social media help you get to those? He said, no, they're keeping you. I said, that's your thing. You got to remind yourself, this is not making my dreams come true. And then put the phone down. That why helped him break that habit immediately, because he's like, yeah, my dreams I'm working on my big dreams. I'm not going to get there for reading this stuff. So knowing your big dreams, having a personal constitution, who you are, who you want to be, that helps. And a personal mission statement. We all owe something back to the world. So in a big scheme, those are whys. On a small, and I think more what you were referring to know our why. Once we have a plan for our life, do you know only 5% of people design their own life? That's not very many, right? Everybody wants big things, but only 5% or so estimated. Maybe it might be 6 or 7, who knows? But that's
not a big percentage, though.
Not a very big percentage. But if you want to design your own life, then you do like what you were saying. A big idea comes along, and you're like, does this fit into my plan? Is this consistent with the character I'm building? Is this consistent with my relationships? We can take a look at that and accept or reject ideas based on what we've already got established, right? If it fits and we want to take it to the next level, ask our people around us and say, what do you think about this? And follow it up for sure. You and I and so many people that do coaching are big dreamers. They've got a lot of big ideas. So we need somebody to bounce them off of that'll kind of bring us down to earth.
Absolutely. Well, or to help us, and I don't know if this is, and I'm sure your clients experience this as well, because I know I'm not that unique, but I'll have an idea and I can't necessarily articulate it until I bounce it off of I know in my head, in my essence, what it is, but sometimes I have to bounce it off of somebody like a coach or a mentor, and then have them say back to me, is this what you're saying? This is what I'm hearing you say. That's pretty close, or that's it, right? Yeah. But it's that whole testing, not for permission, for clarity. And right. And then that way other things start aligning much simpler to go, yes, of course, that lines up there. It's congruent. And the more congruent things are, the easier things just seem to flow.
Yeah, having somebody and you have to be careful when you share your big ideas with, right? You don't want to share them with somebody who's going to rain on. So you have to have somebody in your world. My husband's perfect. He's a big dreamer himself. He's also got a good sense of keeping his feet on the ground. So I know he's a perfect person. He'll tell me, whether my ideas he's very supportive, and mostly he'll be like, yeah, if you like it, go do it. But he's pretty good at putting some common sense into the conversation as well. So he's perfect for me. But a coach or a mentor, you said earlier about not everybody being integrity. This might be a good place to insert this. You don't want to go to those people either that aren't in full integrity and take your ideas there. I don't think people who are not living the things they're teaching themselves are useful to you in any situation really, but that one in particular.
Yeah. You
can't take this idea to somebody who themselves are not in integrity. And we call it, in my world, we call it never hire a fat trainer. You want to make sure that whatever you're trying to accomplish, the person who you're working with is on higher ground. There's things I won't work with people who, I'm not going to go into that, but there's people I won't even read their books if I don't feel like they're living. And I thought when I was writing my book, I was so careful. I would just look all the time. I'd ask myself, do I know this from my own experience? Have I proven this? Because it's very tempting to come find a good idea and share it as truth, but it needed to be my own truth. And the closest thing I came to doing that was meditation. I've only been doing it for a few years. So I said in there, I've only been doing this for a few years. This is what I found. So I made sure, but just shoot me if I ever try to teach something that I don't know positively from my own experience and practice that it's true.
And practice is a humbling experience sometimes.
Yeah. So many people want to learn it and then just teach it without the practice part.
Yeah, the practice is the proof is in the pudding. And you kind of have to do it to know it.
Yeah. You don't really. There's a saying that says, but there's in theory and practice. In theory and practice, in theory, practice and theory are the same thing, but in practice they're not. And that's a truth.
Clever. Yeah, it's a clever truism.
Give me a minute to get it out, but.
Thank you for valid. I have that same, I know it and then I say it backwards and I go, no, that's reversed. So sometimes my analogies come out that way too. Sometimes I'm thinking, that's not quite right. My husband will go, did you know what you just said? I'm thinking, I know what I meant to say. So anyway, I digress. When I was reading a bit about your own background, it made me wonder, for you and for those you're helping, what do persistence and fortitude play along the way? Do they have a role?
Oh, well, of course, persistence, consistency for sure. Persistence, consistency takes persistence, and they do. There's a rhythm to developing a habit, which is not exactly an answer to your question, but I think is a little bit. When we develop a habit, we start with a new habit. It's always good to work with do the fitness ones, right? Because we can all relate to that. So I'm going to start working out now, and I get the new clothes and the new shoes and the gym membership or whatever it is. I'm going to do my new program. And there's a honeymoon phase, which can last like one day sometimes, and maybe last a couple of weeks. We get through the honeymoon phase and we're doing Facebook, so we're all excited. But then you hit what I call the doldrums, where you just takes all of your persistence that you've got, all of your willpower, everything you've got to get out the door and make it happen. But if you can get through that phase, and the less you miss, the faster you'll get through it. If you keep pushing through, you get to a phase where it becomes who you are. You might still drag your feet some days, but you're still like, I don't want to work out today, but you're still putting on your shoes and going out the door, even while you're thinking it, right? Next thing you know, you're in the car and you're driving to the gym or whatever it is. But getting through that doldrum phase is the key to developing the good habits. We have a limited, psychologists tell us this, we have a limited amount of self-discipline. And at the end of the day, it's gone. When it's gone, it's gone. Now you can increase that with practice of discipline, but all of us have a limited amount. So we're trying to build a new habit. It just takes almost all of our discipline to do it. But once you move it into the phase where it becomes who you are, it takes very little discipline. Now you can use that discipline for the next habit or the next thing that you're trying to accomplish. So that's a little
interesting when you were talking about that. I'm wondering, do you, when you're working with folks, use like triggers? So you talked about, and you were using exercise as an example, but like the trigger of just leaving my shoes visible, where I see them, I'm thinking, okay, those are my walking shoes or my gym shoes. I made a commitment to use those shoes. And then so that would be a trigger. For me, that is a trigger. My gym shoes are they precede my clothes.
They would help. And some of my trainers, when I had my fitness business, would sleep in their workout clothes. Some of my clients would sleep in their workout clothes and get up in their wear dress. Yeah, that would, anything that helps like that. But the main trigger that we have is the tracking sheet. Okay. If I've taught them to use the tracking sheet, now they know that if they don't go, they can have a blank on their tracking sheet and they're going to see me the next week.
So it's both a trigger and an accountability.
As an accountability. But nice. I mean, I joke about them seeing me, that they're the ones that disappoint themselves. It's not, they don't disappoint me. But
no, I know. But when there's that external thing.
Yeah, it does help. It helps get the habit done. It does that. Yeah.
It does. Especially for anybody who likes to check the boxes.
Which is almost our brain, I don't know if it's our brain, our ego or what it is, but we don't like that empty box. And I teach them to do it a certain way. You get a check if you did it. You get an X if it's not required that day. Like, I only work out 5 days a week, for example. Okay, get 2 X's on Saturday and Sunday. That's planned in advance. You don't just get to wake up one morning and say, I'm able to take an X today, right? If your commitment was to work out that day and you don't, you get a blank spot. You cannot believe how people hate those blank spots. I do, everybody does. We just hate it. And then as you go across your month and you see this line of blank spots, it's so discouraging. It's good accountability, and you can't have a mentor forever.
Right.
Good, I guess. But in theory, your mentor is going to be temporary. But learning, so if I can teach them to use the tracking sheets, I have some other tools too. We just talked a lot about tracking sheets. If I can teach them to use that and they make that habit, then they've got accountability for life. They'll just do that for life. And I know people do that. I have the tracking sheets are free on the website, and I've made those available for years to anybody who wants them, but most especially past clients. And I have people I haven't seen in years still every once in a while checking with me and say, hey, can I get a copy of your tracking sheets? I've lost my copy that I've been copying. So yeah, that's very addictive practice.
It's very great affirmation too of the power of your work.
Yes, yeah.
So I want you to share one of the things we ask our guests is if there's something that people might be surprised to learn about you. Now, after having spoken with you, this isn't as surprising for me to learn, but I'm wondering if you will share with our guests. Do you remember what answer you told me?
I don't.
It's one of those things. Often people don't. I say, you want a clue?
Give me a clue.
It has to do with participating last year in a contest.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so I'm 65. And when I started writing my book, I realized that there had been something I'd wanted to do. I'd taken off my big dreams list. I'm writing the book about not having regrets. What I wanted to always do was a bodybuilding competition. And now I'm not, this is a whole nother animal fitness, right? This is not even healthy necessarily thing, but to do it once, I wanted to just get on and do it once. And so I did that last November. Scariest thing I ever did. I mean, I've been on a lot of stages, Sarah. I spoke to all kinds, thousands of people and hundreds of people and dozens of people. And I'm comfortable on a stage, but not that one. It was the hardest thing I ever did. I got a little statue. I placed 5th out of 5. But I was really proud of myself. It was really hard. And you get up there, I mean, you're not wearing anything, right? I mean, they
Oh
couldn't
my
make
God, I look at those pictures and I'm thinking, ooh, you got to be brave.
that. I had to probably do one more because I think I was way in over my head. I didn't have very good, I had not taken the time to get a really good posing coach. And the guy that had helped me, well, he was a guy for starters. And there was just things, now I know it, I could do it a little bit better. I knew it from a fitness point of view, like as a fitness professional, I knew what that world was kind of about and what it looked like. I knew a lot about it. But again, between theory and practice, being in it, it's a crazy world. It's anyway, it was during COVID. So there's a few beginners or people that aren't really like hardcore, but in this one, everybody's like totally hardcore, been doing it for all their whole lives. And I was the oldest woman there. My category.
I think that's rocking
something.
right there. I like that right there. It's like, okay, let's change the paradigm right here.
My kids were pretty proud of me. A couple of my daughters went, and they were pretty impressed that I did that.
As they should be.
Mhm.
As they should be. Hey, so one other question I'm wondering, and you talk about having a large family and surprise to you, but how important is it to you, or has it been to you in your journey to have that community of supportive people who both believe in you, but also challenge you a little bit?
Mhm. Oh, it's important. I think we're the sum, it's been said, and I believe it's true. We're the sum of the 5 people we spend the most amount of time with. Unfortunately, we can't always pick all 5 of those, right? But still, having people in your world, the principle is that you have people in your world that do support you and do challenge you and that believe in your dreams, that don't try to pull your dreams down. I think all of us probably have a person or two in our worlds that looking for a chink in our armor all the time. You've got to have somebody who just really believes in you. So it's been very important. And I've had a nice circle of, my husband and my kids, we're a tight family. And I've had some good friends that have supported me. And it means everything. We do this thing called Big Thinkers Dinners, and we host them every couple of months, mostly designed for young people, younger people than us, not young, but for people who've got big ideas, like we're talking about big idea people.
Yeah.
Because it's so hard to have people to talk to when you've got big ideas, right? I'm sure you have a hard time, maybe. I do. I always long to have a group of people that I could just, somebody I could just talk about ideas and we didn't have to talk about window coverings and, weddings and that kind of stuff, So we host these dinners and we just invite people that some of them we hardly know. They don't know each other. And we feed them dinner. I give a rough idea what everybody does and I just let them go and they just talk and it is so fun. I'm trying to provide for them those people that they can share their ideas with.
Oh, you're creating the environment.
Yeah, I'm trying to create an environment. What I wished I'd had, which I never did have like this. What I wish I'd had when I was in my 20s, 30s, 40s, even now.
Yeah. I don't think we ever grow out of the need to have a place for ourselves to be. I kind of think of it as a germination place. In some ways you have an idea, and sometimes just listening to someone else's idea frees up something, maybe not even in that moment, but like the next day, and all of a sudden a light bulb goes off and you're thinking, thanks, that was it. So
yeah, totally. That's why I love to do this thing. It gets these guys together, young men and women together, and they're sharing ideas and they don't even realize that they're being inspired. They're just having nice conversations, but they leave with phone numbers or ideas, or later they'll contact somebody that they met. And we're doing one in September, in the first week of September. I'm really looking forward to this. We've got a nice group coming for this one. So we'll have like 30 people, and
that sounds super wonderful. Just having that environment, and that I can feel from you that it's very relaxed.
Yeah.
So sounds like it's taken the best of all of your experiences and then laying it open for other people to just flourish in it.
Yeah. So a lot of times I'll share one principle by like maybe 3-4 minutes. I mean, I don't talk. I might get on and talk to them, or sometimes we have a DJ, so I'll get on the mic and just say just a quick little something to send them off with, and then just let them go. And we don't serve alcohol because I don't drink anyway, but we don't serve alcohol because it gets in the way. I want them to be real, authentic, genuine, real conversations. Reach out, talk to people that they wouldn't ordinarily talk to. It's incredible how successful they are.
Well, and people like to share ideas, especially if someone will hear their idea in the way in which it's being offered up.
And finding somebody to do that with is just difficult. Like I said, it's like, I mean, I love my friends. I love all the people in my world, but you hunger for somebody who wants to talk about ideas rather than people and events and that kind of thing. I just want to talk about ideas.
I learned from someone, I don't know if it was something I read in a book or something, but it was many, many years ago. And we're the same age, so a long time ago, but it was something like, see what happens when you don't talk about other people. Have a whole conversation, but don't talk about people. And what I noticed was if I promised myself I wouldn't talk about what's going on in other people's lives, I could talk about other people if it was part of my story, right? Like so-and-so and I did this, but not about, did you know that? And guess what? The conversations got really brief because people were always talking about other people. And I'm thinking, wow, it was such an insight to just see that.
Not just people all movie stars, sports athletes,
right?
News.
But no one said, hey, what do you think about this? I have this idea. What do you think about this? That wasn't the conversation happening. And that was kind of what I wanted to hear. Like, what do people think about that kind of stuff? So I love your idea.
So then we don't talk about people in this. In fact, we don't even, guess what? We don't know, and there's no rules, but they don't even talk about COVID, if you can imagine. They're too busy. They've got big things and they're doing, they're too busy to be caught up in all of the junk that's going on in the world. They want to talk about ideas. And I'm pretty careful who I invite though.
Right. You're intentional.
Yeah.
I like intentional. So tell us the best place to stay connected with you. Where do you hang out on the web? Where should people who say, hey, I really want to know more about Sherry and what she's up to, where should they go to find you, Sherry?
Our website, of course, which is lifemasteryinfo.com. And I'm Sherry at lifemasteryinfo.com. And I'm very accessible. You can, if you have a question for me or you're interested in coaching, we also have some other people who've worked with me for a lot of years who are also doing mentoring with the Life Mastery Principles. If you're interested in that, contact me. Or you just want to ask me a question. I'm really easy. Of course, I'm on Facebook. The book is available on Amazon. Right now, you can get a hardback, paperback, and supposedly ebook. I tried this morning. It was kind of weird. I don't know, hoping with ebook on Amazon. We can get a hardback autograph copy on the website at lifemasteryinfo.com. The hardbacks may not be available for a period of time on Amazon, but at this very moment they are, which I always love hardback books. So I made sure it was available in hardback copy. So that's it. Amazon, of course, is not on Amazon. It doesn't exist, right?
Evidently.
Apparently.
The oddest things. It's like, I know I can find that. That's on Amazon. Yeah.
I know. I guess I rarely get tripped up. You can find just about anything on there. The oddest things.
It's almost a game now. Yeah. Where can we find it besides?
Yeah, besides Amazon.
Besides.
Yeah, I hate to be that person, but there I am, I can always find it on Amazon.
We all are. We all find it because, COVID too. We're all mail order. We've got into that whole thing. And I'm happy that that's not a topic of conversation because there are other things also to consider in this world. Yeah. Sherry, thank you so much for being a guest on the podcast. I really enjoyed talking with you. I do think you're inspirational, and I'll be rooting for you when you stand up on the stage this coming year.
Thank you. I hope to see you. Maybe I'll meet you on one of those, someplace I'll be on the stage, or you will, and I'll meet you there.
That would be fun. Okay, we don't live that far from one another, so that would be fun.
No, we don't. No, not that far. It doesn't feel far away. I've been that way so many times.
Yep. Just a short desert ride.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Sarah, have a beautiful day and good luck with your podcast and the other things you're doing. If I can do anything for you, please let me know. I'd be happy to.
I will. Thanks.
Thanks, Sarah.
You've been listening to the No Labels, No Limits podcast with best-selling author, change agent, and strategic vision coach, Sarah Box. You can grab the show notes and find out how to work with Sarah at sarahbox.com/no labels, no limits podcast. We'd love this podcast to reach as many people as possible. So please remember to rate, leave a 5-star review, and share the podcast with someone you think would get value from this conversation. Until next time, keep taking those daily action steps to align your purpose to your principles and achieve your goals in business and life.